Speak if you can. What are you?
Merry Christmas, everybody. Today is June 23rd, 2023, and we started making a top secret Project KES.
This is the Kelly Entertainment System, a retro game emulator and Bluetooth speaker built into an old GE radio, which along with 7 paintings is part of an elaborate puzzle of Christmas presents for my cousins and my sister.
Was the hope drunk wherein you dressed yourself?
3 years ago I made these marker paintings as Christmas presents for my cousins, the Kellys, and my sister Katie, except they weren't actually the presents, they were clues to what the presents really were. Each painting had a unique crypt, with the key along the top edge, and a quote from the actual present, which is the book that I got them. Each cousin, or sibling, had to use the key to decrypt the quote and name the book for me to give it to them. That same year, I also made my sister a simple Wi-Fi drop box mounted on an acrylic stand with a 64x64 RGB LED display that had some cool functions like showing rain or snow or bubbles or showing the names of all the files currently being hosted by the Dropbox, and a simple game that can be played with an Adafruit feather-based controller.
About 3 years ago, we went to a Goodwill just to pass some time, and CJ found an old radio that was an antique and didn't work.
So this is an old General Electric radio, the one that we found at the Goodwill. This is the shell for it right here. It was an old tube amp radio that was probably built in the 50s or 60s. It actually had a pulley system inside of it for tuning across the stations. I gutted it. The internals were so old they were disintegrating to the touch. Literally disintegrating, like Voldemort. Like Buffy does to vampires. It just turned into dust. It was a mess. So I kept just the shell for some uncertain future project. One of the things that disintegrated was these speakers that were sitting inside here. And instead of having wires going through the outside of the system, the signal went through the hinges. After last Christmas, which I didn't do anything interesting for, I started planning another puzzle project using that radio cabinet and my marginally improved painting skills. The original idea was much more ambitious, because at the time we had 10 months to complete it, but that's not how it actually worked out. See, the March before the Christmas of the original puzzles and project, this was back in 2020, I got really sick for 2 weeks. At the time, I thought it was COVID. I couldn't breathe, I was dizzy, it made me tired all the time, my heart kept skipping, and I started sleeping longer and longer every night. After a few years, the burning in my lungs went away, but the tiredness stayed. It turns out, it wasn't COVID, it was Lyme disease, which I had for 3 years before I got treated, in March of this year, and then immediately got again, and got treated for it again, and I've spent the whole year recovering from it. It wasn't until November that I could start working on projects again, like building and repairing these motorized bikes with Braden, and by then I could finally consider doing the puzzle project. So now it's November. The plan is incomplete. I only have some of the parts that I need. I have almost no money. There's almost no time left. There's just no practical way that it can be done. Anyway, I did it.
Is this a dagger which I see before me?
The base idea was to build a game emulator. I put RetroPie, which is an operating system built for emulating retro game systems like the Game Boy, Nintendo 64, the Wii, whatever, on a Raspberry Pi, which is a single board computer used for like embedded systems, learning electronics, and other hobbyist projects. Interesting fact about emulators, it's legal to emulate game systems, but not to distribute or own pirated copies of games, which in this context are called ROMs, read-only memory, because that's the name of the technology used in those old cartridges. It is, however, legal to make digital backups of games that you bought and use them in the emulators. Not that it really matters. As far as I know, nobody has ever been arrested or more likely sued by Nintendo simply for having pirated ROMs. There have, however, been a few high-level busts on people mass distributing them. Since it's not legal to download them, but it is legal to make copies of legally purchased games and play them in the emulators, that's what I'm going to do. And definitely not download them illegally. And I'd show you how, but I can't seem to remember where I put them. Anyway, after I got that up and running, I started working on getting the Raspberry Pi to act like a Bluetooth speaker. The idea was to have it accept audio input connections from other devices over Bluetooth and play the incoming audio over the 3.5mm audio jack. In my mind, that should have been relatively easy. I was fucking wrong. In fact, I don't even really know how I did it. I was going to take notes during the process, but after 8 hours of tinkering, trying different methods, editing this Python script, learning a bit about the Linux Bluetooth stack, spinning in circles through Stack Overflow posts and tutorials, I finally got it working and the whole thing was a blur. Speaking of which, never change the Bluetooth settings on this device. Never connect a Bluetooth controller. The Bluetooth settings are a delicate house of cards that could collapse at any moment. The audio jack would then be connected to this 20-watt amplifier, and then these speakers, mounted in the swinging doors and connected through the hinges just like the original radio had it. After that was done, I got our Uncle Dave to provide some of his photography as screensavers for the system.
Which of you have done this?
What, my good lord?
Thou canst not say I did it.
Next, I had to figure out how to make the paintings. I have a particular painting style that I like to use, all witchcrafty and magic, kind of dark in theme and using bright neon colors contrasting with dark backgrounds. The premise was that the paintings reveal their order, and then the UV LED strip reveals the keys to decrypting the messages of the paintings, ultimately revealing the final step to solving the puzzle. I was back and forth a lot about what the final step should be, and what the paintings would be of, and how the crypt would work. I had the idea to reference books like the previous puzzle, but it would have been too much to also buy everyone a separate book, plus how would that help solve one puzzle? So maybe it should all just be one book instead. At one of my previous jobs, I used to bring a small copy of The Art of War into meetings with me to read until the meeting started. I thought about carrying that around on Christmas and having an RFID tag inside it to complete the puzzle. But then, how would it tie into the content of the paintings, or my painting style being dark, witchcrafty, and magic? And then it hit me. There is a book that has all that. Witches, magic, a dark fantasy and medieval theme, a book that I could easily carry with me. A book that not only would they all be familiar with in some way, but that also stands perfectly as a metaphor for our relationships to each other. A book that is the text that connects us as a family. Our fucking name, Macbeth.
Not to like the spirit of Banquo. Thy crown doth sear mine eyeballs.
So across the span of 5 straight days doing nothing but painting, I made all 7 of the paintings. Each is displaying a scene from the play in the crypt text and foreground elements, with their backgrounds revealing the order by fading light across the sky and through the trees that stretch across their borders. And symbols on the edges which not only link one painting with the next, but also spell Macbeth in the crypt text. Each with some neon elements, and each with some glowing elements, including the key to the crypt text written in glowing paint across all of the suns and moons. And each with an RFID tag sitting behind the M symbol that will also be covering the RFID reader on the back of the Kelly Entertainment System.
Bow down, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow.
Finally, everything needed to be assembled. There's a lot of internal components that I'm going to skip over, like converting 12 volts to 5 volts and all the wiring between the connected devices and the decoder for the display, because I didn't have enough time to write this video as both an explanation of the puzzle and a tutorial on how to build one of these. I had some steel plates made at a local machine shop for mounting the speakers, the display, the controls, and the power input, and spray painted the visible ones black, and then made the rest from plywood. I drew the logo for the project in Inkscape as an SVG and then embroidered it on some nice pattern fabric and stretched it over the speakers and the rear panels. Then I made the splash screens that play when the device is turned on. Finally, we assembled the system, did a final test, and wrapped it all up.
As I had stand my watch, I looked toward Burnham, and anon methought the wood began to move.
Liar and slave!
The final puzzle should have gone something like this. 1. I arrive in Pennsylvania for Christmas and make sure as many of the cousins see me reading Macbeth as I can before Christmas Day. 2. I deliver the Kelly Entertainment System as a gift for everyone on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. 3. I deliver the paintings also as Christmas presents separately. 4. The Kellys and Katie discover the order and scan the paintings. 5. The UV LEDs turn on, they decode some of the text, and they take my book, my copy of Macbeth that I had been carrying around the whole time. 6. They discover the RFID tag in the back of my book and scan it. 7. The system replaces the old splash screen with a new one that includes the link to this video as a QR code, which they scan when the system reboots and follow here. And then here we are.
What is thy name?
Thou'lt be afraid to hear it.
No, though thou call'st thyself a hotter name than any is in hell.
My name's Macbeth.
The devil himself could not pronounce a title more hateful to mine ear.
No, no more fearful.
Thou liest, abhorred tyrant! With my sword I'll prove the lie thou speakst.